Okay, and we're live.
Good morning, everyone. I'm looking for Director Gephardt. Maybe get a thumbs up from him that we're ready to go.
Good morning. We are here and we're ready to go.
Thank you very much. And now I've got to scramble and grab my agenda.
Call to order and roll call.
Commissioner Cayley, would you give us a roll call, please?
Yes, I will, Chairman. Chairman Lancaster,
Here.
Vice Chairman Glick,
Here.
Rod Cayley, Secretary's here. Commissioner Geis, excused. Chairman Cott, Chairman Cott, thank you. Chairman Little,
Here.
Chairman Purcell,
Here.
Chairman Zucker,
Here.
Chairman Wagner,
Here.
and Chairman Yankee. Chairman Yankee? Does anybody know, is he going to try to get on?
I think he is.
I would
Okay.
guess so. I haven't heard otherwise.
Okay, great. We do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Cayley. The next item of business is the approval of the minutes on both the 4th and 5th of November. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve both minutes.
Second,
Moved by Commissioner Cott. Do I have a second?
second,
I have a second by Commissioner Cayley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion carries. We move to item 4 on closeout memos, and Director Gephardt, would you do that, or have I gone too fast and we need to have some introductions or welcomes?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see anybody from Select Water Committee on yet. I'm wondering if other Representative Larson, I was concerned that maybe they didn't get the meeting invitation, but apparently you did, Mr. Larson. And are you expecting more to
The
join?
whole Select Water Committee has received an invitation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, they're not required to be here, but I just wanted to make sure that they were given the opportunity if they wanted to be. So we can continue.
There's an appropriations meeting going on, I think right now. Y'all know more than I do about it. And I know that some of them Select Water is taken away for that. And so thanks for passing out an invitation to them, Riley. And now we're back to you, Brandon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So under item 4, we've got 2 closeout memos. The first one is the Boulder Irrigation District Rehabilitation Level 2 study. And Andrew Lynch is here to provide that closeout memo.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andrew Lynch. I'm with the Water Development Office and Dam and Reservoir Division, and I took over this project from Tony Rutherford, who went to work for the Northwest Rural Water District earlier this year. So I'll do my best to give you an update on this project. We got the report in, closed it out a couple months ago. The appropriation was $171,000. Final contract amount was $153,397.91. And in general, this was a rehab project to look at the Boulder Irrigation District's infrastructure. They get water out of the Boulder Lake Dam, flows down Boulder Creek, and it's diverted into their canal. And that's their main canal that delivers to all the head gates in their district. So we took a look at a couple of things in their system. the Boulder Canal, the dam, and some structures along the canal. Specifically, we looked at seepage in the canal as well. Seepage loss along the canal is significant as reported in the application. So to assess that, the team went out and visually inspected that, and they used aerial photography to see where it was greener than normal, and then also coordination with the district on boggy areas that prevented access to some of their fields when it was time to bring the hay in. Numerous options were looked at to abate that seepage on the canal. Ultimately, a shotcrete liner was selected as the most cost-effective, the best life expectancy, resiliency to cattle crossing, constructability, access, and things along that nature, and coordination with the district. Assessment of the spillway included visual inspection and an underwater inspection with a scuba diver, and then some ground penetrating radar of the concrete on the crest. The concrete was in general good condition. There was some erosion and exposed rebar and a few cracks. However, it does appear that repairs could extend the life of it. One thing to note on this one, it was recommended that they start planning for a life cycle replacement or some major repairs within the near future. But like I said, the repairs are expected to extend the life by 20 years. Moving on down to the canal head gate is also a concrete structure and is in decent condition for its age. Some abraded concrete and some cracks, exposed aggregate. Again, recommended repairs are estimated to extend that service life by 20 years. Additional structure assessments included the Burkhalter head gate and an inverted siphon structure, which is also part of their canal. We also used the same assessment methods and ground penetrating radar. Ultimately, some concrete work was recommended for the head gate and a cast in place liner to extend the life of the inverted siphon. Preliminary designs were developed for the recommended rehab alternatives, and their cost estimates are summarized in the table there on page 2 of this closeout memo. In general, the system has been pretty well maintained, and the components are expected to continue to serve into future years and decades. Some facilities have experienced deterioration and need some repair. So those are the costs that are estimated. At the last meeting with the district, they were looking into other funding sources to help offset the cost benefit ratios here that they would have to do, and they were looking at what they would need to do in their district to adjust assessment rates and things like that. So they did not submit a level 3 funding request this year, but we would probably expect that next year, I suppose, if they get their other funding alternatives lined up. The report gave some recommendations for some Bureau of Reclamation funding and NRCS funding. So they were working with the consultant after the project to apply for those. All the contract requirements have been met. The report's online at those links. Well, it should be. At least Tony Bergantino at Words told me that he was working on that. So the Water Development Office recommends acceptance of the final report, project findings and recommendations, and these cost estimates are suitable for an inclusion in a level 3 construction funding application. We had a public hearing on July 14th, and the question was asked, according to Wyoming statute, if there's any person, association, or corporation engaged in private enterprise desirous and capable of providing the project functions in lieu of the sponsor, and there was no response received. And then there you'll see on the 3rd page is the proposed motion. Any questions?
Any questions regarding the Boulder irrigation project?
I do have, I guess, basically, where in the state approximately is that located, that district?
About 10 or 15 miles southeast of Pinedale.
It's an
Okay, thank
entry,
you.
Larry, it's an entry canyon into the Wind Rivers near Farson, kind of between Farson and Pinedale.
Yeah, there's a
Beautiful place.
There's a town of Boulder there, Wyoming, that's about 10 miles south of Pinedale.
Visit there
Okay, I
sometime.
wondered
Larry.
how it got the name of the dam. So there is a town also. That answers the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the Boulder study? Okay. Should we make a motion at this time, Brandon, to accept that or wait till the next one?
It'd be preferable to go ahead and make a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move acceptance of the Boulder Irrigation District Rehabilitation Project Report as being complete, and further, the WWDC makes the following findings relative to this project. One, that the project recommend proceeding to level 3 of project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor. 2, based on the findings in the final report, the project is determined to be in the public interest. And 3, the project functions and services cannot realistically be provided by any person, association, or corporation engaged in private enterprise.
We have a motion by Commissioner Purcell. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Suker. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any?
How many?
Hearing none, motion carries.
10,000.
I'm going to try to be a little more formal with names. So Director Gephardt, would you please move to the next item?
Mr. Chairman, you've been very kind. I've been called worse many times, so I have no issue. Mr. Chairman, the next project closeout is for the River Basin Plan GIS data model implementation, level 1 study, and Mabel Jones will provide that information.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and member of the commission. I'm Mabel Jones, and I will be presenting the closeout memo for the River Basin Planning GIS data model implementation level 1 study. This was a project that was sponsored by the office as part of the River Basin Planning data modernization work. The modernization has been taken on to develop River Basin planning tools for in-house use to quantify water use and availability. The consultant was Confluence Consulting Incorporated out of Montana, and the consultant team project manager was Jim Johnson. The original contract amount was $107,225. The final contract amount was $170,224.30 with a savings of 70 cents. So this project was completed to implement River Basin Planning Program data modernization efforts by completing some of the core data sets in our data model. The idea is that focused development of these data sets will open the doors to better understanding of infrastructure needs and also allow us to make investments that are consistent with the best scientific engineering and management practices. As these data sets are developed, they can be made available to consulting firms to streamline their GIS and inventory efforts, and also to our partners to save money on future planning efforts. So to accomplish this project, the consultant worked with the office to mine outside data to develop statewide data sets from sources such as the e-permit database. Also, they worked with the office to retool data sets that were collected as part of previous River Basin planning projects to bring those into statewide data sets. And then they also worked to link established data sets such as the National Hydrography Data Set, or NHD. So trying to work with those, make this compatible with as many data sets as possible. So this study included development of a subset of data within 4 feature classes or shapefiles within our data model. The feature classes or shapefiles that were developed included structures. For this project, we populated surface water diversion, wells, springs, and gauges as part of the structures data set for a total of approximately 11,000 records. Conveyances were also populated This includes canals, pipelines, ditches, and channels. There are approximately 27,000 segments, not 27,000 individual conveyances. A lot of times the conveyance may be made up of many segments. So that number may seem very big for number of conveyances. Also work to populate reservoir polygons so that we could link those to the water rights data sets. And then finally, we did a download of the e-permit database for points of diversion for surface water and spring points of diversion, as well as groundwater wells for approximately 12,000 records for that data set. So a final report, in addition to the data sets that were developed, the final report documents the original sources from which these data sets were created, the methods by which they were created, so somebody can go back and look at how they were completed so that we're not reinventing the wheel. And also a qualitative and quantitative assessment of the accuracy and completeness of each data set, along with recommendations for future work to refine the data. These reports are online as technical memos, and the data sets will be archived over at Word and be made available through the Water Geo Hub. I do want to highlight recommendations, Water Development Office recommendations, and these include improving the data sets by addressing errors and incorporating new Water Development Office project data sets. We want these to be living data sets. We also feel it is important to work with partners such as the State Engineer's Office and the Water Resources Data System to continue to improve these tools. And River Basin Planning Team has been meeting both with the surface water section as well as the Interstate Streams Program at State Engineer's Office to share these tools with them, that also work with them to see how we can refine these and make them better. And then a final recommendation is to work with partners at regional levels to integrate these data sets into interstate mapping applications. And I did want to share that we're already utilizing and sharing these data in work that we're doing with the United States Geological Survey with the stream stats development. We recently provided the diversion data for them for the stream stats models. And then we also are sharing this, I've just shared this data with the Western States Water Council to complete some of the diversion work that they're doing for interstate streams. So we're pleased to say that this data is already reaching outside of our borders to help understand some of those issues that don't recognize state lines. So with that, are there any questions regarding the project?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cayley.
Yes, Mabel, I saw on here that you talked a little bit about improve or address some of the errors. What type of errors are you seeing in those data sets?
So sometimes, with the e-permit data, sometimes there may not be good location information. And so, things may not map quite accurately. With the diversions, we tried to match those to both the source stream and the conveyances. There were a few records that maybe matched to a source stream, but didn't match to their conveyance, or they matched to a conveyance but not a source stream. So going in and cleaning up some of those kind of records. And we do have full documentation of those errors in the technical memo. And then, the other thing is you have to think about scale too. This was done from a desk, as armchair data development. And as the consultants are reviewing this data, it is our hope that, they'll be able to refine these data based on even what they're seeing on the ground as they're out with their GPS units.
So mostly just your typical cleanup type stuff as you're kind of moving through the data sets. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mabel?
Mr. Chairman, this is
Go ahead.
Mark. Just a fantastic project. I mean, what Mabel went through there, it's amazing. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner K or Commissioner Cott, that was very nice of you. And I was going to say the same thing. So way to go, Mabel. And
And it was River Basin Planning Team, so it was our team.
No, go ahead, take credit.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman,
Commissioner Glick, go ahead. Somebody's bell's ringing.
yep, I heard that. I have a question. Are you gonna try to move forward with more refining of this through our program, or how is that gonna work out to move forward with, like, including more data since this project's complete?
So as the Water Development Office projects are completed, we do have standards for how that GIS data is collected. And when that comes in, that now becomes part of master data sets rather than just being standalone project data sets. So, the ultimate goal is to keep building those statewide layers. In terms of the errors and that type of thing, we're looking at doing probably some of that in-house with our River Basin planning team. But another thing that we've been talking to the state engineers office about is whenever they have those mapping errors in the e-permit database, would there be an opportunity for us to work with them to correct that source data? Because we're kind of on a parallel path here, but how do we make these things work together to make their data better as well? And so those discussions are in the beginning stages.
And I have one more small question.
Right.
Now, when you guys do your like your geodatabase or your master set or whatever, is there a possible way that, images could be linked and or hyperlinked to each site?
So whenever with the project data sets, sometimes whenever those data sets come in, there are images linked in that data that comes in. So it probably would be specifically, maybe not for, I guess it could be for diversions, or for the structures. You can have photos of head gates, but probably more frequently what you would see would be images linked for potential projects, sometimes in those data sets that come in from Water Development Office work. But absolutely, and even like we saw yesterday, there's opportunities to link documents too, like the e-permit or the linen plats and those other state engineer's office records. And oftentimes we'll see consultants do that if that's something that benefits the project sponsor.
Okay, and then are you going to hyperlink like USGS flow data to certain sites? Is that going to be like kind of like where you could put it in a model maybe later?
Yeah, and that is part of the long-term goal of this, is to set us up so that we could have those flow models. Some things that will support that are, I did mention that we're working with the United States Geological Survey. They're developing the stream stack that could help aid in that. And then we have other nodes of the data sets that relate to water flows. Right now, those are primarily being populated project by project. So it's not something that we have statewide yet, but that's kind of that long-term goal of this data model implementation would be that the statewide flow modeling and that type of thing.
Well, thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thanks for your support.
Any other
Mr.
comments?
Chairman?
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm wondering, I'm work for the state engineer's office as a hydrographer.
Mhm.
Is this, you need ArcMap to use this data, I'm assuming?
Mhm. So currently it is shapefiles within, that can be used in ArcMap, correct?
you'll get that out to the state engineer, and maybe you already have, to make sure that they have that link and
Um,
on.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have shared this with Steve Bosler, who's the GIS specialist in the Cheyenne office. And then I believe there's some other folks in surface water who've also been working with the data. You know, the hosting data is evolving so quickly, you know, and so we're trying to figure out the best way, whether it's through the University of Wyoming on the GeoHub, but also the state of Wyoming has their new, they have a new GIS person within the Enterprise Technology Services within to provide support for state agencies. And there will probably be some conversations going forward with how we could make this easily shared between agencies like our office and the state engineer's office. So we're working on the same data set if we are sharing that data. So, you know, rather than just having it in a file somewhere, you know, how can we have that shared data? And those are some details that we're working out.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Larson, go ahead.
Yes, I also, this is, you've gotten this information out to the engineering firms so they can obviously use it, hopefully.
With some of the current projects, we have done clips of some of the data sets to get them out to the engineering firms so that they're not starting from scratch on some of these. And as our data is uploaded over at Word, it is accessible to those engineering firms.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions for Mabel or others? So hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the GIS?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I move acceptance of the River Basin Planning GIS Data Model Implementation Level 1 Study Project report as being complete.
So we've had a motion by Commissioner Wagner. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Glick. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Mabel, thank you, and to the entire staff that helped. That sounds like a big deal and a very helpful tool.
Great. Thank you, and have a great holiday season, everyone.
Thanks, Mabel. Okay, going on to number 5, Colorado River Basin modification.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm finally waking up, and I should have asked for this earlier in the meeting. But if I could, I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda under item 6, the Lands Creek well purchase. I would also like to include the Sheridan the
Sheridan
Sheridan
ownership.
Area Water Supply Joint Powers Board name change to City of Sheridan. And the reason for that is that in the proposed amendment, it is one amendment. And I think if we discuss at that point, we can just make one motion for the entire amendment.
Thank you, Commissioner Gephardt. So does anybody have any heartburn with us adding item 6A, I guess, the Sheridan name change? Any questions or comments on that?
Mr. Chairman, is that also the Lance Creek one also? Or
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Cott. So it would be the Lance Creek well purchase, and then item 6A would be the Sheridan Joint Powers Board Sheridan City name change on the ownership of that study or project. Am I clear on that, Director Gephardt?
Mr. Chairman, yes, you are. And I've got a question. I believe we'll probably be talking about the contract between the Water Development Commission and the BOPU for stage 2 storage water. And we might include an agenda item after item 9 to discuss that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
question for the director. Won't all these things be handles of amendments to the omnibus bill? Under the agenda item possible
We
amendments?
certainly could, Mr. Chairman. That would be fine.
okay. Good comment. Gets us going in the right direction. So we have a change. We'll have a 6A and we'll have a 9C addition to the agenda. And we'll discuss them when we get there. Does anybody object to that? Hearing none, we'll go forward back to Director Gephardt on number 5, Colorado River.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a request from the office to the commission. What's going on with this MOA budget modification? This pertains to the Big Sandy Reservoir Enlargement Project. As you remember, Reclamation is kind of running the project at this time. It's for an enlargement of the Big Sandy Reservoir. And the status of the project is that Reclamation has received and is reviewing construction proposals. And those construction proposals have come in higher than what they had estimated. So they've sent a request to the commission to increase the project costs. And the office is suggesting that we apply to the Colorado River Basin MOA. That would be both MOA 1 and 2, because MOA 1 is nearing the end, and MOA 2, I believe, is already signed and ready to go. So there is money available there. We've been working with Steve Wolf with the State Engineer's Office on this. I think everybody agrees that this request will fit under the MOA, and the request is for $3.6 million. That would be the addition to the Big Sandy project. The current budget for that project is $16.23 million. The increase would be $3.6 million, and the total project after that would be $19.83 million. We did we wanted to make sure that we're still within our benefit to cost ratio, and we're fine with that. So we don't see an issue with that. I think we'd go up to $22 million before that gets questionable. So it's still proving to be a good project from a cost benefit perspective. So I see Steve is on the line. Steve, did you have anything to add?
No, I don't think so. I'm just here to answer any questions about Mo in general. I think the project specific stuff is probably with Jason Mead.
Okay, thank you. So the request that we're asking the commission is to acknowledge the project cost increases and authorize water development staff to submit the necessary requests to the United States Bureau of Reclamation, and they call it a RAC form, would be the application to them. So that would be the request of the office to the commission. Stand for any questions.
Questions for Commissioner Gephardt on the Big Sandy project, which is a budget modification? Hearing none. Someone like to make a motion?
This is Mark. I would move that we approve the proposed budget modifications as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Cott and seconded by Commissioner Purcell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. It's good to see you, Steve Wolf. I hope you're well.
I'm well. Good to see you all too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
There's you got a lot of things to juggle. Okay, Commissioner or Director Gephardt, item 6 is the Lance Creek well purchase that we talked about yesterday. Would you lead us in that, what we need to do there?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I also see, just for the record, that Bill Yankee was able to join. I understand there were some computer glitches. Welcome, Mr. Yankee.
Thank you. Yeah, I only had to call Riley about 3 times, but she got me going, so I appreciate that. I did have some technical difficulties. I think they were on my end, so glad to be here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the Lance Creek well purchase, we did discuss this yesterday. I don't know if there's any other discussion on this or the SAW City of Sheridan name change. There is, Riley is pulling it up there. We do have an amendment, a proposed amendment drafted for this, for both of these. And I think Mr. Purcell's correct that we can discuss it now, but I think if we approve the amendment under item 8 on the agenda, we should be, that might be the appropriate place to approve the amendment. So this could be any discussion that we would have on the proposed amendment.
Thank you. So we have before us the Lance Creek well that will be sold. We'll have the name change from Sheridan Joint Powers to Sheridan City. Everybody just kind of bringing just a revisiting in that information. Any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to accept both of those, the well and the name change?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Purcell, I would move that these would be amendments to the construction bill.
Yeah.
I would move that the draft construction legislation be amended to include the proposed purchase of the Lance Creek well and changing the sponsorship of the Sheridan Area Transmission Pipeline from the Joint Powers Board to the City of Sheridan.
We have a motion from Commissioner Purcell. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second from Commissioner Yankee. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any? Hearing none, motion carries. And Commissioner Yankee, we're glad to have you. We're glad that the technical worked out. And just as a way of information and future information for you, they asked for your whether you were in attendance or not this morning, and they called you Chairman Yankee. So just be thinking about that, you know, as the future rolls around.
Good thing I didn't hear that.
Commissioner Vice Chair Glick would appreciate somebody across the mountain to help him, I'll bet. Okay, let's get away from that. It's good to have you. So we've done 6 and 6A, and now we're down to 7 planning contracts. Back to you, Director Gephardt.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these are 2 documents that we're asking for approval on. The first one is an interagency agreement between the Water Development Commission and the Game and Fish for an in-stream flow study. In the recent past, the process for who pays for these in-stream flows has changed. And so now the Game and Fish through the Water Development pays for the study, but we need to have an agreement for them to pay for this study. And the next item under this agenda is the actual agreement to conduct the project. So the first one is the in-stream flow interagency agreement under tab MC. This is between, as I mentioned, this is between the Water Development Commission and the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. The agreement is for them to reimburse Water Development Commission for the total amount of the project, which is $19,430. And I'll just move into the next one, which is the Rock Creek and Trail Creek in-stream flows 2020 level 1 study. That interagency agreement would fund this study. If you remember this, the consultant selection process was accomplished at the same time as a level 1 and level 2. So we've got the consultant selected. I believe we're pretty much ready to go other than these contracts. So this contract is a contract to conduct work between the Water Development Commission and Arrow Land and Water LLC for $19,430. And Chase is here to answer any questions anybody may have.
Anybody have questions for Chase on this, on these projects? Hearing none. Chase, you want to make any comments on it?
Mr. Chairman, no, sir. Just here for questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
We have a motion to accept this items. Excuse me, to accept this.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wagner. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Purcell. To all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any? Hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Director.
thank you for the approval. With that, and because we are virtual and in the interest of time and mailing fees, could I maybe ask the commission for approval for Commissioner Purcell to sign the interagency agreement and the Rock Creek, Trail Creek in-stream flow agreement in the place of Commissioner Lancaster?
Do we need to do that in a motion, Director?
I believe we do, Mr. Chairman.
Would someone make a motion, please, to let Commissioner Purcell do the signing of these changes?
So moved.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Kaylee. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Suker to allow the signing of documents by Commissioner Purcell on this action item. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any?
No.
We need to have a hand vote on this one.
Brian, we're,
Uh,
don't ask for
As the
that.
opposing vote, I suggest we waive the hand
They're not
vote.
in, but I was afraid he wasn't going to do this.
Here- Hearing none, hearing one, the motion still carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it was just pointed out, I missed something. We've got 2 mortgage releases that would also need to be signed. I apologize for this, but could we have the same motion to sign those mortgage releases?
Commissioner Wagner, will you amend?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wagner amends the previous action and allows for Commissioner Purcell to sign additional documents. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks for bringing that up, Brian. That saves some paperwork and some back and forth. We are on to item 8, I think, Director Gephardt.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, I think what I would like to do is present the omnibus water bill as for planning as it sits, and then I anticipate that we'll have some further discussion on the LaPrelle Irrigation District rehab portion of that. So under tab O is the draft omnibus water bill for planning. Under section 1, these are our level 1 reconnaissance study under the new development account. These projects have all been vetted. We've got the Hoback River, Lander Water Master Plan, Nordic Ranches Water Master Plan, Upton Water Master Plan, the Wheatland Water Master Plan, Lake Hattie Reservoir Full Utilization Study that we discussed yesterday, and the UW Water Research Program are all under this section of the bill. The next section of the bill, section 2, is level 2 feasibility studies for new development. This includes the Bighorn Regional Transmission Project, Byron Rural Water Supply, Gillette Water System Improvements, and the Little Snake River Valley Water Supply Phase 2 project. The next section of the bill, section 3, is level 1 reconnaissance study under the rehabilitation account, water development account 2. Those projects are the Highland Irrigation District Water Master Plan, not the water map, the Highland Irrigation District Master Plan, and the Lander Ditches Rehabilitation. If you'll remember the Lander Ditches Rehabilitation Project, we put the caveat on there that the Dickinson Creek Ditch Company and the City of Lander will concur on a scope of work before we execute that agreement. Mr. Chairman, section 4 is amendments to existing projects. The first one is amending I forget how we did all of this, but this is because we've already appropriated money for the LaPrelle Irrigation District Rehabilitation Project. This is amending that prior legislation to essentially increase the costs for the LaPrelle Irrigation District. And on page 6, you will see that we've got a number left blank on line 14 on page 6. And I suspect that we'll have some further discussion, and it would likely be, we would have to bring forward an amendment to the omnibus planning bill to include this. So I think for now, let's come back to this and continue on to section 5. This is an amendment to extend the contract time for the Glendo for a couple of projects. We got the Fontenelle Dam and Outworks. And if you look at page 8, the original project name was Outworks, so we're changing it to the correct Outlet Works as part of this amendment. And this section also increases or provides a time extension for the Fontenelle Dam and Outlet Works project and the Glendo Reservoir Full Utilization project. Section 6 does a very similar thing, and this is a time extension for the Nowood River Storage, Alkali Creek, and the Clear Creek Storage project. So those sections just amend prior legislation for time extensions only. And Mr. Chairman, then that brings us even back to the agenda for possible amendments. We had some discussion yesterday on the LaPrelle Irrigation Dam Rehab Project. We discussed the the director's recommendation of 500,000. But I think that there may be some more discussion on that, so I would let anybody answer questions or enter thoughts to that item.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Purcell, go ahead.
I'd like to report that I passed on the scotch and had chocolate milk instead last night.
Hey, I'm so proud of you.
After thinking long and hard about this, I'm going to suggest that the number under section 4, line 14, be increased to $4.3 million. That would allow us to complete the work envisioned by the 500,000, as well as complete the 30% design and complete the permitting. There was a couple things that affected my suggestion. One is storage is the #1 priority of the rehabilitation program. #2, we see this as a potential emergency. And I think we're better suited to have the funding in place to complete this as expeditiously as possible. The contract work I would suggest would be phased. But in the event that the project can progress to the completion of the permitting and conceptual design, we would leave that to staff to decide when and if that should be done. So what I'm suggesting is the contract amendments may be in fact phased. And all those would be subject to Commission and Select Water Committee approval. I was also concerned by the fact that by just piecemealing this, it seems like we're getting parts of things that ultimately may lead to the conceptual design and permitting. But the reality of it is, I'd rather have the money in place to complete those entire goals rather than coming back every year to get the money we may or may not need. I think, well, I'm sure we would have the support of the Select Water Committee and legislature. I just think it's good business to know where we're going with this financially. And I think this particular amendment would allow us to proceed more professionally, if you will. The second part of my recommendation is going to be that the amount of funds, the entire $4.3 million, would be obtained through a transfer of $4.3 million from account 1 to account 2. This is the appropriate program for that. We could just do it under account 1, but I think we need to document that we still feel this is a rehabilitation program and should work that way. I know it's a lot of money, but as I say, it's a priority. And I think this is the most professional way to go about it. I would also suggest somehow that Brandon and the AG would put a footnote to this appropriation that would suggest that if there is federal funds available for reimbursement of our expenses, that such reimbursement would go back to account 2. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would take any questions you might have. I know it's aggressive, but I think in this particular case, it's in the best interest of the project and the program.
That is very well said. Now just think about how good that chocolate milk did for your inspiration on this. Well, I'd like, any other questions or comments?
I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Suker.
I do agree with Commissioner Purcell on this subject. I think when you piecemeal, especially in engineering, you're not going to accomplish your goal. And this is a critical path on this reservoir. It needs something to happen. I agree with that. We certainly don't want it to go into our emergency fund, and that's where it could end up if we don't. So I do back it, but I like the idea that I think we should explore a reimbursement if it's possible, if it's there, or could be there at one date. The other one is, what type of sources of funding are there available, or how, if we complete the engineering, what is our percentage? Does it look better when we have this scope of work classified and the design completed to this point? Does that help the project, I guess, my question.
Mr. Chairman, I'll try to address that question. So there's a couple of thoughts that I have on that. To your point, we're not sure what the best method is yet. One thing that this would provide us is we can look at it in a couple of ways. That if furthering the design is necessary to get it to secure additional funding, then we'd be set up to do that. The other thought is that if we can find funding to help us with the design, then we can use this money as leverage to potentially increase our pool to further the design even further. This approach does give us some flexibility in going forward, and it'd be on us to develop the process to move forward. But there's a lot of good things that we can do with this appropriation, and it does provide us additional flexibility.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that comment, because something in this case, in my opinion, needs to be done. This dam could be a major action within the state. It could cause a lot of damage. There could be a lot of bad things happen with it. Needs to be done. So I agree. Let's go after it. See where we can get the funding, or make sure they're working on it, and let's go for the bigger chunk and go after it and get her done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Suker. Other thoughts or comments?
Chairman,
Commissioner Glick, go ahead.
I have a question about, I guess, you don't want it to go so far to be included in our takeaway from the emergency funds. So is this like, is there a way to like declare it so that we can actually request funds from the federal government for like preparedness or prevention, so that we don't have to mitigate later? Is there some kind of declaration that can be put on this so that we can make sure that it's a priority not only for us, but an avenue to request funding through the federal government?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Purcell.
Thank you for the thought, Commissioner Glick. I think it's, first of all, the funding would have to come, request would have to come from the LaPrelle Irrigation District with our assistance. They're the owner of the project. And I think through our entire scope and the contract, it's very clear that we're doing this in part to secure federal funding. And I would hope nothing in this motion could be considered anything else, but it's clearly on the path of the project to seek federal funding. At this point in time, we need this money to actually decide what our best options are, if any options, and then how to proceed and what information we have to generate for that funding. I guess, Commissioner Glick, I think it's covered through our contracts, and it's covered with our overall intent and discussions with the LaPrelle Irrigation District.
Chairman, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Glick.
Thank you, Commissioner Purcell, for your clarification. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Commissioner Yankee.
Yeah, I have a question. I certainly agree with everything all the commissioners so far have said, Commissioner Purcell and Commissioner Sukler and Commissioner Glick, but and this, I may be coming from a little bit behind on this, but also Commissioner Purcell mentioned options. And I'm sorry I didn't ask this yesterday, but I was just a little too slow on the draw to get to my unmute button. But are we in fact saying now that the preferred alternative is to build a new dam at LaPrelle, or are things still being looked at are other options still being looked at, whether it's repairing the old dam or what other options might be there? And again, I apologize if I just missed something somewhere, but I do have that question.
Mr. Chairman, I can try to address that. And then I don't know, Riley, if the consulting team is on the line. If you could admit them, they may be able to contribute as well. But Commissioner Yankee, some of the work that we've done to date and part of that was an alternatives analysis. And it did look at multiple options for the dam and rehabbing the existing dam. And I think there are probably a couple of different ways that were looked at to rehab it. But the common one would be to infill between the buttresses with concrete. And if I remember correctly, I think some of the issues they saw in that analysis had to do with the foundation of the dam. And so that moved it as far as a preference lower on the preference list. And so ultimately what that analysis developed was a preferred alternative of a new dam immediately downstream. And it would be a roller compacted concrete dam immediately downstream. And I see Pete Roush and Corey Foreman. If you want any follow-up, I'm sure they could provide additional detail.
Any questions for our engineering firm? This has been a very good discussion. It's very proactive. It shows that we're doing our best here. Any other thoughts or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cayley.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment that I probably should have had some strawberry milkshake last night or something as well, but I went to the Jameson and I came out of it with, I wasn't going to support this because I thought we were throwing $4 million down the rabbit hole, and the project would probably never get funding in today's times. But after listening to Commissioner Purcell and Brandon and his staff, that they might be able to use these dollars for leverage and work with a phased contract that might include some future funding and some of that stuff. Then I kind of changed my mind and thought, I would support this. It sounds like if we don't put that foot forward, then there's no chance. It's just too important to let it just fall to the side. So I will be supporting this. And thanks for everybody for their comments.
Thanks, Commissioner Cayley. I'm impressed with the great discussion here. Any other comments or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is
Go ahead.
Commissioner Cott. Just want to ask Commissioner Purcell just to re-summarize his if he was going to make a motion, just what are the main points that he wants to bring forward on this, just as in a summary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm suggesting is I'm looking at the draft legislation on page 6, line, my glasses are fogging up, 14, that the amount be increased or added of $4.3 million, and that this funding would come from a transfer from account 1 to account 2, and that there be language drafted to ensure that in the event of reimbursement, the funds would revert to account 2.
Thank you.
And if you wish, I could make that a motion.
So we
I have one more question.
one more question from another question from Commissioner Suker.
Where I see this is a possibility of getting this funded in the long term. At least there's a chance. But would the LaPrel, before we make this motion, there's never been an application from the LaPrel district to apply for these funds. And I guess that's just a question. We are now making a motion and committing to these dollars. And is there an application, or would there be, to substantiate the funding that we're allowing here? I guess that's my question.
Good question. Director Gephardt, or can you help us with that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is a good question. And so the way it's established right now, this would be an amendment to the planning bill. And the commission funds 100% of the planning studies. This is kind of on the borderline. We have examples of, we've used level 2 funding for design and permitting before. I believe, is that correct, Jason?
For account 3.
For account 3. And in those instances, it's a very similar process to what we're talking about now. With this approach, the way it sits now, then no, there would not be an application from the district.
Mr. Chairman, can I add something? And Brandon, Director Gebhardt can correct me if I'm wrong. There are provisions within our program that we can seek reimbursement from the sponsor for level 1 and level 2 studies. So in the event they do get a federal funds, I do believe that there's provisions in our program that would allow us to ensure that we get reimbursed should in fact that become a possibility.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that's completely accurate. And I've had some correspondence with Darren Cook, our AG, looking at this in a different version. So maybe he can confirm what we're saying, that the operating criteria and the statutes to allow the reimbursement of level 1 and 2 studies could accomplish the scenario Mr. Purcell laid out. Darren, could you unmute yourself and help us with that, please?
Mr. Chairman, Director Gephardt, yeah, that's correct. I believe that's accurate, the way that Commissioner Purcell laid that out.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Suker, does that satisfy your last question?
Yes, it does, I think, Mr. Chairman. That does what I asked.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add one thing. And when the level 2 or level 1 project did start, there was an application for that. This has kind of morphed into something completely different since that time, but technically there was an application by the district to initiate this work, but I understand more with the intent of the question, but so it is a little different.
Okay. Okay, so other questions or comments before we move on?
I have a question, Chairman.
Commissioner Glick, go ahead.
Since it's kind of the first application's morphed into something else, I was wondering if there would be a possible way to like almost do like an addendum to that application through the LaPrelle district so that we have something on documentation or some, some documentation there showing that this funding was requested.
Good question. Brandon, can you help us with that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, maybe one suggestion that maybe we could ask the district for a board resolution to support the ongoing project. Would that suffice the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good idea, and I would say there should be language that understands that if there's opportunities for reimbursement of these, the investments the state's making, that those would be supported by the district.
And Mr. Chairman, to that point, I see Colt Rodeman, the district manager, is available, and he may be able to contribute to this conversation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I just want to say thank you all for allowing this project to move forward. I do have I have a quorum here with me today of board members, and we do support everything. You have our commitment to do whatever it takes to move this project forward. Complete and unanimous support from all the board members. We're just plumb elated that we're able to move this off top dead center. It's looking real now. And Commissioner Purcell, if you would allow me to know what flavor of scotch you like, you have a bottle, as well as Mr. Director Gephardt. Thank you all.
Thanks, Colt. Director Gephardt probably needs Pepto-Bismol. As we drop things on him and say, well, can you just handle this? Thank you for your discussion. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, we're waiting for a second on the motion.
Yep. So we're back to the question. Just one second. It was, we're all looking for checks and balances, but basically, and a paper trail that shows we did the right thing. So we go back to Commissioner Purcell's motion that we increase the funding. We asked Director Gephardt and the staff, Jason and Brian, and all involved and the district to make sure that money is used well and appropriated appropriately. Do we need any clarification on the motion? Do I have a second? Oh, Brandon, stop.
Yeah, but before we approve it, or maybe it needs to be done after we approve it, I just want to get the concept square in my mind so that we can work with our AG and possibly LSO to draft this amendment. So the way I understand it is that in the planning bill, we will be adding $4.3 million to the previous $650,000 appropriation. So whatever the math works out on that. And then we're asked to develop a footnote that if, I guess, non-state funds are available for reimbursement, that those reimbursements go to water development account 2. Whether that be through the district or through a state agreement. Does that capture the intent?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I just think that first of all, I do like the idea of a resolution from the district saying that if in fact that the work is reimbursed, that they would happily do so. But that doesn't have to be in this, but in the event that happens, we need to say where the money goes that we get reimbursed. And all I'm trying to do is say that goes to account 2. Because it's not necessarily, if you're comfortable that any reversions are covered here, that in the statute that they're going to account 2, we don't need that. But I thought this was a special case. And then the fact I wanted to clarify that if we did get reimbursed, that money goes to account 2.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's worth putting a footnote in. I think it's a slightly different in the possibility that the district would be an applicant for funding, and that funding would cycle through the district to get back to this. And so I think we need to encapsulate that somehow. And I'll also ask another question, that if the district, maybe not necessarily for reimbursement, but if the district secures funding and we provide a match or we're able to use that funding, that outside funding be a priority used first before this money be used. Just throwing that out there for discussion.
Any questions or comments on the funding that Brandon presented?
Mr. Chairman, I think Brandon, if we authorize Brandon and our Attorney General representative to come up with, I think we've basically told them how we feel about it, but they should feel comfortable as well. So I would basically authorize them to come up with a footnote. And again, I don't think we need to say it in statute, but I appreciate the district's confirmation that they would be happy to provide us whatever we needed to document the fact that if they do get reimbursed for any of these costs, they would gladly reimburse us, and those reimbursements would go to account 2. ultimately, if this thing actually goes to construction, it's gonna move to level 3. And that will be a typical project agreement, note and mortgage. Not note and mortgage because it's all gonna be granted, but it will have to go to level 3 for the final design and construction. So, and in that, there would be a formal project agreement.
Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Glick.
Colt had his hand up. I don't know if you missed that, but he did have his hand up.
Sorry, Colt. Go ahead, Colt.
I was just gonna say, Mr. Chairman, that, yeah, we'll reimburse the commission for level 2 or whatever we need to do just to keep this moving along. Thank you.
Thanks, Colt. Thanks, Commissioner Glick. So we're back to the motion. And do we all understand the motion? Commissioner Purcell, you want to restate it for the 3rd time?
I think our director's having a thought.
Okay.
We had a little panic attack on reversion date. The planning amendment as is extends the reversion date to 2024, so we're okay.
So.
Okay, once again, the motion is page 6, line 14. That amount become $4.3 million.
Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, it would actually be the sum of the prior appropriations plus 4.3. So in this case, it would be 4.95. Because we're amending prior legislation.
Okay. 4.95 with the understanding, hold it,
And that,
you want all that money coming from account 1?
so to transfer the money, that's in the construction bill, and we can discuss an amendment when we talk about the construction bill. The transfer is handled in the construction bill, so we can amend that transfer in that language.
But how much you want to transfer?
I think we would transfer the 4.3 million.
Okay.
We'd add that to what we're already asking.
Okay.
So that could be a separate discussion.
Okay. So what's the amount in line 14?
$4,950,000.
That amount be $4,950,000. And there'd be provisions in the construction bill that would transfer $4.3 million from account 1 to account 2. And there be language that basically assures that any reimbursement from the district would go to water development account 2.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Purcell and seconded by Commissioner Glick. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you for your discussion, for your open-mindedness, for your fairness, and for some chocolate milk last night. Probably wasn't skim chocolate milk.
Low fat.
Yeah.
It didn't help. I didn't lose any weight. So, Mr. Chairman, I think we're ready to go back to the bill.
Thank you. Our item is item 8 again, but we're moving down through to the construction portion of it, is my understanding. Is that correct, Commissioner or Director Gephardt?
Mr. Chairman, I think if we went ahead and approved the omnibus water bill planning, if we had a motion to approve that bill, I think would be good.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the omnibus water bill?
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, could we basically say as amended?
Commissioner Little, will you add that?
So moved as amended.
Commissioner Little has made a motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wagner. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, so we're down to item, we're on 8 still, but we're at the last billet there, which is level 1 and 2 application fee recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, I think we probably better talk about the omnibus water bill construction first. And Darren, I hope you were awake through that previous conversation because I'm not sure I was. But the omnibus water bill for construction is under tab P in the e-notebook. Again, these are projects that we have all seen. This is just formalizing them into the bill. I think that unless there are any questions, I don't know how deep or what kind of explanation you would want from me, but I guess the total for the omnibus water bill for construction is $17,590,000 with all the projects that we previously discussed. And then I would also point out that based on the previous discussion, I believe that the amendment at that time may cover us. We will have to do an amendment to the construction bill as it stands to increase the transfer under section 3 of the bill.
Page 24, yeah.
Page 24 under section 3. We would increase that from $7,500,000 to $11,800,000. That would be the increase of the 4.3 that we just discussed for LaPrelle.
Any questions or comments on the construction omnibus bill? Do I have a motion?
This is Mark, so moved.
Commissioner, we have a motion by Commissioner Cott. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, could they also say as amended, because this will require an amendment to the bill we saw?
As amended.
Commissioner Cott has added the words amended.
Second is amended.
And we have a second from Commissioner Yankee. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now level 1 and level 2 application fees.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under tab G of the e-notebook, this was a discussion item yesterday, and I think we need to make a motion as to what the commission's desire is. But before we get into that discussion, in my memo, there is one conflict to what I stated yesterday to what's in the memo. And that is in the last paragraph, midway through the paragraph approximately. When we were discussing my recommendation, I made the comment that the reimbursement portion of these costs would be due at the time of application. In my recommendation, I say that it is due upon execution of a contract agreement to perform the project. We've had some internal discussion about this. The way it's written in the memo, where the reimbursement would be due upon execution of a contract agreement, I think that I would like to change that, change my recommendation to that would be due at the time of the application. The reasoning for that is that there's a risk to the way it's written now, in that we go through a consultant selection process, we get to the end, we enter it into a bill, we get ready to ink a deal with the consultant to do it, and then the sponsor decides he doesn't want to pay. It kills the project at that point. So by making that due at the time of the application, it puts a little more interest from, a little more skin in the game from the sponsor to see this project through. So if that were the case, I would like to amend my recommendation to that.
Any comments or questions? Director Gephardt, are we ready for a motion on that one? I guess is my question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we make that motion, I think it would be helpful for the director to summarize what our criteria says about changes.
Mr. Chairman, I've had some conversations with Darren, our AG, and I think that the way I would approach this, if it were to be delivered to Select Water, is we would have two options. One would be to create legislation to accomplish the same thing. The other would be to amend our criteria to accomplish the same thing. And the thought was, how quickly could this be done? And I think that ties into how quickly could the criteria be adjusted to incorporate this. The criteria says that typically any changes to the criteria are brought to are preliminary approved at the August meeting. That's a joint meeting with Commission and Select Water. And then it would go to a public, not a public notice, but the opportunity for the public to comment. And then at the next meeting, then those comments would be considered, and then the changes could be voted on and finalized. So in the discussion yesterday, we were asking how quickly could that be done? And would legislation be done quicker? And my thought to that is that legislation with the possibility that legislature, the session is going to be postponed, any legislation would be effective after this year's applications anyhow. So I don't think that would accomplish anything faster. So any legislation that were to be introduced would not impact this upcoming cycle of level 1 and 2 applications. It would be the 2022. If we amend the criteria as is specified in the criteria right now, we would have the same effect. So I don't see that legislation or criteria changes are going to speed this process up. So my recommendation to Select Water would be to allow the commission to amend their criteria and accomplish what they're asking us. Does that answer your question, Mr. Purcell?
Mr. Chairman, I have one follow-up. When do we start receiving applications?
In January, and the deadline for those applications is March 1st.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that further clarifies that no matter what we did, either option, this is not going to be ready for the 21 program. But it certainly would be available for the 2022 program. I don't think there's a way we can move any quicker, either with statute or by reimbursements. I'd like to hear from Select Water Committee on their thoughts on this.
Comments, remarks from
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Larson? Go ahead.
I've been listening in. It is very tough to say what the rest of the group will say. Definitely, I'm sure there'll be discussion. Yeah, it's going to be tough to get anything done in time for 2021. But I think heading in this direction is probably the right way.
Mr. Chairman, a question for Representative. If we made the motion today to approve the director's recommendation and that recommendation be brought to the August meeting for implementation, would that in fact at least help your situation?
Is the August meeting the soonest you can discuss this? Is that what I heard?
Mr. Chairman, when we wrote the criteria, we very purposely made it that the criteria could only be changed once a year because we didn't want every meeting to have a criteria change. So the whole purpose of this is for clarity. Bring your changes to criteria at the August meeting and we'll address it then. And so that was on purpose. I know it's pretty rigid, but we didn't want them taken. We didn't want pot shots taken at our criteria all year long. We wanted to address it all at one time. So I still believe in that. And we will certainly, I think with a motion, express our intent to do so. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that's the best we can do right now.
Thank you. Representative Larson, thoughts?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a good way of going forward. I think it'll be receptive. I wish there was more members, the Select Water on here right now. I don't, but definitely we'll have discussion tomorrow, and I think a motion and getting it passed would be great.
Riley, do you see any other members of Select Water in the waiting room?
Negative.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more thoughts or discussion on the application fee changes?
I have a question, Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Glick.
If we go ahead and make a motion to accept the changes for Director Gebhardt's application fees, which will in turn change the criteria, which is not allowed until or available to be looked at until August. Is there a way that we can make a motion now with the intent of changing it in August and putting something in there that says that we can like ratify our changes at that point in time?
Mr. Chairman, I think ratify is a little strong, but I think what we would basically, if you wanted to change your motion to say you approve the director's recommendation as he amended, and that you recall that's when the application fee is collected, that we approve that recommendation and that we will bring forth that recommendation for approval and public comment at the August meeting.
Thank you.
I want to make clear, a public comment does not necessarily mean a hearing. It can be written, but there would be a period of 40 days or 45 days where we would have to receive written comment as a minimum. But that would still make it available for our January application process the following year.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, do I have a motion to move this forward?
Commissioner Glick, do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
Mr. Purcell, you go first. I might get it all backwards. Thanks.
Anybody? Okay, I think you've heard the motion, but I'll do it again for the, we move to approve the recommendation offered by the director on December 9th, 2020, with the amendment regarding receipt of the reimbursement fees. And we commit to bringing this matter to the August commission meeting for approval. And it will be subject to public comment as per our criteria. But our plan is to, in fact, have this effective for the 2022 funding cycle.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Purcell and it's been seconded by Commissioner Glick. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
just want to thank the commission for doing this. I think it's a good direction and it should be received well.
Thank you, Commissioner Larson, or Representative Larson.
On to the next agenda item, would it be possible for us to maybe take a brief break? Or we can push through if that's what you're comfortable with.
No, I was going to suggest the same thing. Is everybody okay with that? Take a 10-minute break. Okay, we'll go again. I don't see my clock. There it is.
We will resume at 10:26.
10:26. Thank you, Riley. Have some chocolate milk.
We're live. No, we're not live, but our mic is on.
All right, just a little announcement that it is 10:26. If everyone's back and ready to resume.
Commissioner Chairman, or Mr. Chairman, you're muted.
Thank you, Director Gephardt. We now move to item number 9. Director Gephardt, would you lead us out on that one, or Brian?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Brian's going to provide the level 3 construction project updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under tab Q, we have 2 construction progress reports to present to you today. The first project is the Eden Valley Farson Lateral Rehabilitation Project. This is the sponsors, the Eden Valley Irrigation District. This project is advanced. If you look to the bottom of the page to the project closeout, final project cost was $4,810,815.98. WWDC share was $2,839,861.93. So we had a reversion of $236,138.07 back into account 2. And this project was to replace 6,000 feet of canal lining, as well as 14,000 feet converting from open canal to pipe. Is moving forward.
Go ahead.
Next project is the Eden Valley Irrigation District System Improvements 2019 project. Same sponsors before, the Eden Valley Irrigation and Drainage District. This is a project manager is Bill Brewer. This is to improvements to a sand trap, as well as canal lining on the Eden Canal. This project has moved forward to the engineering contract. Look in the middle of the page there, the engineer that has been hired to complete this job is JUB Engineers. They have a design fee of $42,000, as well as a construction fee of $42,000, for a total fee of $84,000.
Thank you. Any questions on the Eden Valley?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. I don't like the idea of constructing a sand trap. That's where my golf ball lands all the time.
Well, go up to Eden Valley and golf on a farmer's field and see if it happens there too.
Give you a free pass.
Yeah, it won't cost you much, especially if you change a couple of wheel lines or move a couple of dams for him. Okay. Back to you, Brian.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this was one of the agenda modifications I asked for. This would be to create a motion or create action for, I guess, for the best way to put this is to allow the Water Development Office and to work to develop an amendment to legislation that would get us out of the agreement between the Water Development Commission and the Board of Public Utilities for the Stage 2 effluent and Stage 2 municipal effluent provisions of the authoring legislation, which for the record is 99-99-210.
Any questions or comments? This is what we discussed earlier. Commissioner Cayley made some comments on it. Hearing none, do we, I don't see that it's an action item, but it probably it is, right?
I think it probably should be.
Okay. Could someone make a motion to, should we accept that one alone, Brandon, or should we do all three together? Or is it the only one that needs action?
It's the only one that needs, just the concept of the water development working to modify legislation through select water.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wagner to I can't remember what to call this because I didn't write it down.
We'll call it the Water Development Commission.
Termination of the.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
And it's been moved by Commissioner Wagner and seconded by Commissioner Cott. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. We move on to item 10, according to my agenda.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm running out of paper again, so I agree. If it's okay with the commission, I'd like to make an announcement or a couple announcements. We have some departing commissioners, and this could possibly be their last meeting. And we just wanted to provide recommendation and express our gratitude and appreciation for all you have done. We have some plaques. So we have 3 commissioners. Actually, Chairman Lancaster is one that will be leaving the commission. We have a nice plaque that will get mailed out. But I do, I've only been here for a year, but all 3 of you guys have been very valuable to my learning curve, and I really appreciate all that you've done for me and the commission. The next one is Gerald Geis, who is not in attendance. And finally, he's the end of a 2-term sentence, if you will. Mr. Rod Wagner. Rod, thank you very much. Really appreciate everything.
Thank
you've
you.
done.
Been my pleasure.
Applause for all.
Wow, I was worried about this day coming. So maybe you can see this, but I'm trading in my water development badge for a missionary badge. And my wife and I will be in charge of a dozen or so missionaries over here on the Idaho-Wyoming line for our church. And they are the COVID-sensitive missionaries who were sent home because of their possible trouble with the COVID virus. And we've already started this assignment, and we have the best. We just have the best missionaries, farm kids from Idaho and Wyoming that are not involved in proselyting, but are involved in service projects. We do service all the time, food banks and libraries and stuff like that. So there's my 2 bits on where I'm headed for the next 3 years. And I hope to haunt you every once in a while when you have meetings, and maybe even ask for a reappointment after we've completed this missionary service. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for your kind words. It's so fun for me to have this opportunity to serve here. Very enlightening, very fulfilling. And I will continue to help keep the water clean and flowing over here on this side of the state, even though I'm not on the commission, but I'll keep trying to support Brandon and the staff and all they're doing. Rod, would you like to say something?
What I'd like to say is it's been a real pleasure to serve on this board. I really appreciate everyone I've worked with. I think they've had the best of everything in their hearts. I'd like to thank all the people that work for Water Development Commission. We've got fantastic people. Man. Miss you guys.
Any other comments or criticism?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Thank you. As a select water member, as a member of the legislature and the state of Wyoming, we want to thank you all for the work you've done and the commitment that you have gave us. But thanks for all your hard work. We'll miss you. Thanks.
Any other thoughts or comments?
This is Commissioner Cott from Water District 4. Kellen, we're definitely going to miss you over here in Western Wyoming, and we look forward to your return after the 3 years to the Water Development Commission. Thank you for introducing me to this board and guiding me in this first year. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my only regret is this damn virus has kept us from having the fellowship that we normally have with each meeting. I always found that enjoyable. But I wish you both and all good luck in your future, and we certainly appreciate your service.
Thank you. Go to the Albany and have a chicken fried steak in my name, will you?
Okay, if I must.
And a toast with chocolate milk.
You get back in town, you call us, we'll take you there.
Oh, man.
Chairman, I'd like to express some thoughts. Robert Wagner, I mean, I'd like to thank you. I've learned a lot from you. There was many times that I did not maybe grasp the total concept of what certain decisions we were trying to achieve. And when you like we almost sit beside each other throughout the in-person meetings, and I appreciate you guiding me through that. Some of the things, you know, we agreed upon and maybe the other ones didn't agree upon, but at least we stood our ground. As for Gerald, guys, everybody called him a senator, and he's a darn good man. That guy, he was a little rough around the edges and kind of hard to get to know, but after I got to know Gerald, he's very direct in what he in his thoughts, which is refreshing for myself. I learned a lot from him for him being so direct and kind of guide me along the way too. And Mr. Lancaster, I've enjoyed this time so far with you, and we've learned from each other, and you were a good chairman for the time you were chairman. We're all going to miss you and hope that you come back to the Wyoming Water Development Commission after, like everyone said, after the third year. Anyway, thank you all for the service that you provided to our state and our reservation. Thank you.
Larry Suker called me the closet chairman when we didn't get to meet in person. And I always got a kick out of that, but we made this Zoom thing work. And so, any other thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I want to relate to your comment on the closet. Yeah, and I guess it's true. We did end up as closet. I ended up a little bit of a closet, but you end up with a lot. But with that said, I just want to say thank you for my constituents that I served with here that sponsored and supported me through my chairmanship. I really miss people that are personable, and you guys all been personable friends. I do miss the bets on the chicken fried steak. We got to figure out now a new motto here to see what we like the best and where we go to get it. That's going to be a real challenge, but we'll get through it. But I want to say thank you. Thank you for serving the board. Great mentors, learn a lot. With that said, take care, be safe. Don't get that virus. I haven't got it yet either. I think the only one that's got it in here is Purcell, right, Purcell? And it wasn't too bad, right? Okay, with that said, good luck. Look forward to running you guys anywhere in the state of Wyoming.
And Riley had it, and we appreciate that she recovered. I never ever got to introduce you to my wife. She is the backbone of our family and a great friend. Does she look like her daughter, who I brought to some of the meetings? Yep.
Good to meet you.
And this is my son, Patrick. We're just hanging out here at the house, and just want to thank all of you for all you've done for us. It's been a great experience. Thanks. Okay. I don't know what else to say, except we need to call for somebody.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, again, I just on behalf of myself and the staff here at Water Development Office, thank you again, and just let you know I've heard many good comments about all of you, and we're all very appreciative of all the work that you've done. Mr. Chairman, if I can, switch gears slightly, is yesterday I asked if I could get a list of any interested commissioners that would like to participate in the Select Water Committee meeting tomorrow. I would have to work to get an invitation, but if anybody wants that, either let me know now or shortly after this meeting so that we can get the invitations arranged.
Mr. Chairman, and Brandon, I would be interested in attending that, sitting in on that.
Did I hear you were interested?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Commissioner Cott. That'd be great to.
Mr. Chairman, I plan on attending as well, but I'll just come here and share the same link as our director.
Thanks for doing that, you two. That shows support and represents us as fills them in on why we had the discussions that we did have. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, what time is that meeting tomorrow?
Mr. Chairman, 8:30.
Same time, okay. I'll let you know if I want to sit in on it. I'll see where my schedule takes me, but thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, it will also be recorded or live streamed to their YouTube channel, correct?
Yes, Riley, that is correct. But in order to provide any comment or participate, they would have to have an invite.
Yeah.
And they can choose to do either.
What is usually the time frame? Is it an all day meeting or is it just basically in the morning, or how does that work?
I'm guessing at this, but I'm thinking it's probably a morning. A majority of it will be accomplished in the morning.
Okay, would you send me an invite just in case I can work my schedule around the meeting? Thanks.
We will. It will come from LSO, and they'll be the ultimate decision makers. But I will forward the names.
Thank you.
Thank you. And anything else, Brandon?
Mr. Chairman, the only other announcement I would have is a future meeting schedule. Next meeting is March 18th and 19th in Cheyenne. And at that meeting on Friday would be the election of the officers as well, among other business.
Okay. Riley has posted that for us and that'll be good. I once again appreciate everybody who's befriended me and helped me along and teased me, and I appreciate it. Commissioner Wagner took an interest in me early on and helped me not get run over. And Brother Geis, sorry, my missionary words are coming in here. Senator Geis was a rock solid individual who just plugged along and has done so much good for Wyoming. And to just everyone who does good things, volunteers their time and makes Wyoming a better place, I appreciate it. So we've got our schedule, and I guess we just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll do so. I move we adjourn this meeting.
We have a motion by Commissioner Suker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Glick. And so this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you again for all you've done.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Hopefully we have a better year.